Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Michael Dorsey here in Alpharetta, Georgia. I want to welcome everybody to our very first kickoff Level Up University, Level Up Leadership Growth program that we're going to be sharing with you this evening. Over the next 10 to 12 weeks, we're going to go beyond that too, but we're going to start out with, as most of you know, hopefully all of you know, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And the first two laws that we're going to discuss tonight are the law of the lid and the law of influence. And just have some ideas that we want to share with you. We're really excited. For one thing, I just wanted to just open up with some comments and just, really just kind of share with you some of my thoughts about this whole program. The reason why it came about was, I grew up fortunately in a household. My sister and I, Kelly, is on with us. We grew up in a household where it's very positive. It's very optimistic. And Dad always taught us to go for our dreams. Not everybody had that, and we recognize that. And so sometimes I think maybe over the years, you guys have heard me talk about personal development, and people say, wow, you know so much, but it's like, well, no, I read a lot because I was told to read a lot. And now I see the value of that. I've seen the value of that, and I've actually been able to become more. So, if you're taking notes tonight, one of the very first things you want to write down is, if you want more, you have to become more. Okay. And that's applicable to everything in life, right? I mean, it's not just in business and Legal Shield that we're in, or whatever business you're in. It's in life, it's in the family, it's in all of the different things that we have. So, by continuing to grow, you will see greater things in life. Life gets to be a lot of fun. And so hopefully over the next year, 2 years, however long we do this, you'll gain some value out of this. Hopefully we can have you on here and maybe have you as a testimonial of what this has all done. What we want to do is give back, because Larry and I have known each other for I guess coming up on 30 years. It's 28 years or so. And we were just talking a little while ago about some of the conversations we used to have on the phone way before Zoom was around. And these conversations that we had were pretty cool. We had some stuff, and I remember we would end conversations and go, gosh, I wish we had recorded that one. We could have sold that. It's like you think about that stuff. But what we want to do is just share some things that we've learned. Yes, we're going to be referring to the book, but also just things that we've seen over the years, because we've been around a lot of really great people that have earned extremely incredible incomes, but also have done incredible things with that income. We have ideas that we want to share with you guys. This is just the very beginning, from a financial aspect on financial literacy and those types of things. There's a lot of stuff. So hopefully you guys will buckle down and maybe, next week have a journal available and just be ready to be a good student. Okay. I think that's something that I've kind of prided myself on over the years, is just being a good student and learning from people that were way better than me. So, Larry, if you have any opening comments, I'm going to send it over to you and have you open up some of your thoughts.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it. I'm thrilled to be here with you all. Michael and I both, we were talking earlier today, and it's so much fun to be able to give back, right? I mean, that's the reason you really work on yourself, because nothing matters unless you work on yourself. We've watched people that have made a lot of money, but they spend a lot of money and they have nothing today because they didn't work on themselves, and we learned early on to spend more time working on yourself than you do your business, because the better you become, then the more advantage you'll be able to take advantage of any business. And I was just the opposite of Michael. Michael grew up with one dad, Mike Sr., and Mike and I were good friends. And I always loved being around Michael and his dad, because their influence on me was so powerful. And whenever I had a question, I could always call. And of course, Mike, I think, was 23 or 26 when he recruited me, and I was 44. So, Mike and I, he learned some things from me. I learned some things from him, but I really learned a lot from his dad. And I could see why Michael had such great leadership skills, because he was embraced by his father and mom, Lola, but his father, who always was teaching him how to think, and world-class wealth. It begins with world-class thinking. And Mike's dad really taught him world-class thinking. And I was total opposite, gang. I had 5 dads growing up. I knew how to take a good beating from an alcoholic father. The only question is which father was it going to be from this time? And finally, at 17, when I got thrown through a sheetrock wall by one of them, drunk one night, I decided I was quitting school and moving out. And so Michael's lifestyle growing up and my lifestyle growing up were totally different. And so we're living proof that you can come from any background and work on leadership skills and work on personal development and really come together no matter how you were raised or anything else, because everything that's happened in the past is the past, right? Your future begins right now. And so everything we're going to be working with you all on, we're going to use John C. Maxwell, like Michael said at first, it's going to talk about laws of leadership. But I've studied financial education, right? When I started my Legal Shield business, and I wrote a $49 hot check. I didn't have 49 bucks, and I'd been employed for 20 years, but I lost my job through no fault of my own. But I had to write a $49 hot check, and my first commission check was $62.50, and it kept my hot check from bouncing. And within 4.5 years, I'd earned my first $1 million in commissions in the company. And so, I came from something totally different, but I learned because being around Michael, being around his father, being around Dave Savola, being around all these leaders in the company that had done so well. I was joking with Dave Savola, who's the #1 all-time money earner. His family's earned over $40 million in Legal Shield. And Dave, Dave always, when I told him this business model sounded too simple, it couldn't be this simple to make $1 million. He chuckled back at me and he said, then why don't you go do it your way? And I was broke, and he was already making $1 million a year. So my second year, when I made almost $250,000, I went to a financial education course that I paid $5,000 to attend. And I realized that I knew how to work for money. I think we all know how to work for money, but do we know how to make money work for us? And I realized that that's what I didn't know. So just like Legal Shield, I surrounded myself with wealthy people in Legal Shield to learn how to capitalize on this business model. And then I surrounded myself with wealthy people. I spent a weekend with Robert Kiyosaki up in Denver, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I learned that I didn't know anything about making money for myself. I didn't know how to make money work for me. And I made a decision after that weekend that I was going to spend 2 hours a day getting financially educated. Today, I'm blessed to not even have to think about money. And there's some great, great skills. I won't really be talking about investing as we go through this leadership process, but we will have a conversation about how do you structure your money as an entrepreneur? How do you make sure that you've got your money escrowed into right pockets, if you will, to make sure that you're doing the right thing to protect your business, your personal finances, and how to grow your wealth. We'll have some conversation about that, but not right now. Right now, we're going to be talking about leadership. And Michael, I just, this, and I want everybody to know it. I couldn't think of anybody I'd rather be doing this with than you. Seriously. I mean, we've had, like you said, for the last 28 years, we've had so many conversations that I wish we would have recorded. But tonight we're recording, and we're going to be recording, and I'm thrilled and honored to be able to share this stage with you. Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely. Me too, man. I appreciate that. It'd probably be on cassette tape right now. But we'd have to get it transferred over to CD and then CD to digital. I mean, everything's changing so fast. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about the law of the lid. And I think that, really our success is really determined by our leadership skills. And people say, oh, I'm not a leader. Well, you lead yourself every day, whether you know it or not. I mean, it's like, for me, it's like, I know whether I have a productive day or not. So do you. Whether you were a good leader that day for yourself, because sometimes we have to be introspective. We have to look in the mirror and say, what am I doing what I need to be doing properly? Am I leading myself? And if I'm not leading myself, how am I supposed to lead anybody else? And so it's okay if you are starting out from square one, because we all do. And so make sure that you commit to being a lifelong student. So what I want to do is I want to share with you just a couple of slides that I created just a minute ago. They're not pretty, but they'll do the job. and just talk about, the law of the lid, just starting out, just initially, just some initial thoughts is just to share with you that, the law of the lid, your success is limited by the level of your leadership skills. So if you look at, the lid, like he talked about in the book, there's a lid, and that represents your leadership skill level. It could be up here, it could be down here, but your success is limited by that. The amount of success that you have to the marketplace, the amount of success you have in your family, in your household, in your community, in business, whatever it is limited by the leadership skill level that you have. The good thing is that your leadership skill level can continue to grow. So how well you lead determines how well you succeed. And that's something that kind of jumped out at me when I was reading in this book. And I kind of thought about it. And I was thinking about, the jumping fleas aspect of it. And I want to share a quick little video with you. If you guys have not seen the fleas video, it's actually really interesting. It's only 49 seconds. So let me optimize my video and share the digital sound, the stereo sound on here, and open it up and go ahead and hit play. And if you guys would just listen real quickly and watch.
Training fleas requires a glass jar with a lid. The fleas are placed inside the jar and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behaviour is now set for the rest of their lives. And, when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
Stop and you think about that. Their offspring will follow their example. Now, what does that tell you about the environment that we grow up in? See, Larry, I remember the slide that you had on this one. I want you to share that here in a minute. Is like, when you think about it, what we take as law, what our parents teach us, what our teachers teach us when we're little kids and we're growing up in this household. And sometimes that generational ignorance, that generational poverty, whether it's racism, whether it's, just feeling like you're broke all the time, whether it's just illiteracy, whatever it is, you can apply it to so many different things. We take what our parents or our guardians, the people where we're raised around, who raises us, as law. We think it's the truth. My point is this: is that the flea's offspring also only jump so high, when the reality is they could jump 10 times as high as the lid. So they hit the lid, they hit the roof. You and I, as human beings, as people that are on a growth pattern, we can blow the lid off of our lives anytime we choose to. So are you going to break the cycle? Maybe you've been in a cycle where your family has been generationally poor, or struggling financially, or maybe they've been generationally wealthy, and those wealthy thoughts have been passed on from generation to generation. I know Brian Carruthers was one that was raised in a household where they built $1 billion real estate company, and you wonder why Brian's worth tens of millions of dollars now, because he was raised in that environment. But then you take somebody like Dave Savola or Larry Smith or so many other people that we have that were not raised in that environment, but they blew the lid off of it anyways, because we can. And so can you. You just have to believe in you. You have to believe in yourself. And sometimes you just have to take inventory on yourself and look in the mirror and say, what am I doing that I could do better? Quit. You got to be very careful how you talk to yourself too, because that lid is there whether we know it or not. It's invisible, but it's in our brain. And sometimes our self-talk limits us. And so we got to be really careful how we talk to ourselves, and so make sure you're monitoring that. Start writing out your goals and your affirmations. Start building that vision board and start dreaming bigger, because you can. Think abundantly versus scarcity. So many people think scarcity, and the abundance is out there. We have an unlimited potential in our minds. We only use 10% of our minds. And that to me blows me away, thinking about that. So are you going to be the one that breaks that cycle? Are you going to be the one that takes that next step? Larry, I know you probably want to talk a little bit about this. I want to just send it over to you for your thoughts.
Well, thanks, Michael. I do want to share my screen because I think this is really cool what this slide says. And it's from a guy named Steve Siebold. He's one of the guys I studied on my money courses, right? And he says them here, which I think is really cool. It's called the evolution of a belief system. He said parents, teachers, coaches, clergy, friends, relatives, and others of influence say to the child, this is when we're young, this is fact. And then hold on a second. Let me get my thing working just a second. I gotta get this out of the way. There we go. The parents, the child accepts the elder's perception of what is fact, even if the elder is completely wrong, because the child doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. They're learning what's right and wrong based on the perception of other people. And then the child unconsciously ingrains these beliefs in his or her subconscious. And then we start building habits according to what our mom and father said, or our teacher said, or our clergy said, or friends or relatives. And then we grow into an adult operating under dozens of faulty beliefs and habits, but we're not consciously aware of it, right? And the adult then operates under false and limiting beliefs and sets invisible boundaries of his and her life at an unconscious level. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what so many of us have done, and Michael, because Michael's father was such an influence on him, Michael didn't have near the challenge that a lot of us have, right? Where we didn't have any, our home life wasn't something that we're proud of. It wasn't something that we may have learned some things from it, but it wasn't the kind of things that Michael was learning. And yet, and look at Michael, how he had these leadership skills at such a young age because of that influence. So we have to be careful who we're listening to. When Dave Savola, when I asked him, after matter of fact, when Michael was the one that recruited me in Legal Shield, and after the event in Florida, we went to have dinner afterwards, and it was Michael and his father and Cleve and Dave and I. And I asked Dave, I said, so Dave, how long have you been in the business? And he said, 3 years. And I said, do you mind if I ask how much money you made? And he said, $1 million. And I said, you made $1 million? And he said, yeah. And I kind of chuckled and I said, how did you make $1 million in 3 years? And he laughed and he said, there's 5 simple keys to success. And I said, what are they? He said, 15 minutes, show you may or may not be interested, 2 a day in a weekly meeting. I said, what does that mean? He said, to break it all down, Larry, what we really do, listen carefully, we put information in front of people. And we can do that in Zooms today. We can do it in videos. We can do it in live events. We can do it all kinds of different ways, but we put information in front of people, right? And then we let them get their questions answered. And we always want to use a 3-way call in Legal Shield because we want the prospect to understand that they don't have to know the answers. And then we let the prospect make an informed decision, right? And so I said, wait a minute, you're telling me basically we put information in front of people, we let them get their questions answered by somebody else, and then they make a decision, and that's how you create $1 million income? And he said, that's right. And I kind of chuckled, and I said, Dave, it can't be that simple to make $1 million. And he chuckled back at me, and he said, then why don't you go do it your way? And I was dead broke and had to write a $49 hot check, and he was making $1 million. Who would you listen to? And that's when I said, you teach me how to make $1 million and I'll become the best human copy machine you've ever seen. And that's really when I latched on to Dave and Mike and Michael and Cleve and really said, I became a sponge, because leadership is about who you are around. You become the average of the 5 people you're around with the most. So, do yourselves a favor. Sit down with a piece of paper on your off time and write down the 5 people you hang around with the most. And then do what I call a Ben Franklin close, right? Oh, up in the top left hand, let's just say Michael Dorsey is one of my best friends, which he is, right? So you say Michael Dorsey and you say, what are the things that Michael, his pros, what are the things that Michael does that are great? And what are the things that Michael does that he could use some work on, right? We call them pros and cons, whatever you want to call them. But then you look at the 5 people you're hanging around with the most. Are they financially responsible? You start asking yourselves the questions of what you want to become. Are they strong in those areas, or are they weak in those areas? And what you realize after you look at those 5 people, we are the average of the 5 people that we hang around with the most. And I learned the reason I started hanging around with wealthy people because I'd spent my whole life listening to my broke friends tell me how to get rich. And that's why I was always broke, right? And I had to learn how to get around wealthy people. And that was the ones that had the leadership ability to help me learn, whether it was finances or Legal Shield or life. I spent my time around those 5 people.
Right.
One more tip, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Michael. One of the things that I recommend you all consider, Michael talked about the importance of setting your goals and your values and the things that you want to do. One of the things, and people are different, so I'm not saying you should do this, but this is the way I do it. My mind, what do they call it? ACDC, not ACDC. What do they call it? ADHD. ADHD.
ADHD.
Sorry, my wife would say ACDC.
I'm back in black. Hey man, I'm back in black.
Right. ADHD, right? And so my mind is constantly going about things I have to do. And I could just blow myself away because I got this ongoing list. So I decided to make an ongoing list. And so I have I use digital. So on my phone, I've always got my phone with me. I use a digital list. And every time I think about, I got to get this done, I put it on the list. I told Michael today, I've been working on a chicken coop expansion on my farm. And tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, it's supposed to start pouring down rain. And I told Michael, I said, I've got to finish this chicken coop extension today. And I've been out all day long working on this chicken coop. I was even doing 3-way calls with Carmen Ball. We recruited a new gal today while I was sitting out by the chicken coop, in my jeans and my t-shirt working on chicken coop. But the point of it is I always make a list of the things I have to do. Every time I think I got to get this done, I make a list. This way, my list is ongoing. Listen carefully. The list is ongoing. But at nighttime, when I start to unwind, I go, let's look at the list. Why do I do that? Because I can't get a good night's sleep if I all night long, I'm thinking, oh gosh, I got to do this. I got to do that.
Right.
I build a list, and at nighttime, I grade the list. I go down the list before I go to bed and I go, what are the things that are going to make the biggest influence in my life? Probably things that make money, right? So I put an A next to them. And then what are the things that might make me money in my business? And I put a B next to them. And then what are the things that are fun to do that I probably won't make any money at? And I put a C next to them. We like to do the C's, right? Because they're fun, but they don't really bring a whole lot of value sometimes. So I've got my A, B's, and C's. And then I look at the A's and I go, okay, if these are the things that are going to have the biggest impact in my leadership tomorrow, what's the one thing that will have the biggest amount of leadership growth? And I make that an A1, and then an A2, and then an A3. So when I go to sleep tonight, I've already got tomorrow planned. I'm not going to add anything to tomorrow unless it's an emergency. I've got tomorrow planned. When I wake up, I hit A1, I hit A2, I hit A3, and I go through my list. And by noon, I've got most everything that's really important done, to where I have that free time to do the things that I really want to get done. And it makes a big difference. If you struggle with following up on your goals or trying to figure out how much you have to do, or waking up in the morning and going, what have I got to do today? Try the ABC method. It might help you out. Michael, let's talk about laws of influence.
Yeah, well, we definitely will. And I'm just going to share, that's a great point, is prioritizing your list and write that down. Just, I think everybody needs to just make sure that they plan their next day, the night before, so you don't go into it wondering what's going to happen. And that includes, anything from, exercise to eating right, to going to work, coming back from work and making sure you take care of this or that. There's a lot of things going on, but prioritize the list as well. And it goes back to Eating That Frog by Brian Tracy. Eat that frog. Do some of the things that are the hardest things up front and get it over with. So I think that's a really good point, Larry. The next thing I want to talk about, obviously, is the law of influence. And a couple of notes that I had on that. When you think about it, let me see real quick where I put that. Okay, I put that there. Okay, but true leadership can't be awarded, appointed, or assigned. It can only be earned through influence. Okay, it cannot be mandated. It must be earned. And I think that, I heard it best said a long time ago when we were doing presentations and stuff like that. The market leader in any major market, in any business, is going to rise to the top. My dad used to say, the cream will rise to the top. They'll just show up. The leaders will show up. and they'll be there, and they'll the essence of it. And this is a great quote, and just, it'll lead me to my next slide here. But the very essence of all power to influence lies in getting another person to participate. I heard it once said, from Zig Ziglar, if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want. And that's just influence. That's what it comes down to. It's influencing other people. It doesn't come with the vice president title or a president title or this title or that title. God knows we've known people that have had these great, huge, titles that weren't worth a darn. Because influence is leadership. But if you don't have that leadership, that doesn't make you, influential. It doesn't make you influential, right? So you look at that and you say, okay, well, time either promotes you or exposes you. Okay. And so what I love about the law of influence is that the only thing a title will do is buy you a little bit of time until it either promotes you or exposes you. So sometimes people get all uptight about this or that. So I can't believe that person went here, went there, or they got the raise, or they earn this or earn that. Just give it time. Just sit back, relax, and give it time. The older I get, the more patience I have. And you see it. You see sometimes people will they'll run their race and they'll run out of gas. Just be the one that, if you can remove your emotion from some of these things business-wise, it's going to help you become successful. Now think about this one. This one was a really cool story in the book. It was about Abraham Lincoln, one of the best presidents we ever had, the 16th president of the United States, right? He went from commanding a militia as a captain, that was his title, and basically demoted himself because he had no influence. He had no power to influence. Can you imagine that? The 16th president of the United States had no power to influence, and he was demoted down to the rank of private from captain. But then, because you're not limited by your lid, the first law, you can grow leadership-wise when you start leading yourself properly. And Larry gave you a tip by prioritizing your list, building your list, making your list, and prioritizing it and going through that. That is part of leading yourself. So you can blow the lid off of it. And then all of a sudden, he goes into become one of the best presidents we ever had, commander-in-chief. So he goes from captain to private to commander-in-chief. And if you read that, you guys have all seen Abraham Lincoln, this person failed and to be elected here, failed there, failed in business, filed bankruptcy, blah, blah, blah. And you go through all of that, you realize that is something that is, that's the ups and downs of success. A lot of people think you can go from A to B and it's a straight line. It's not. It's just a big mess in between. But it's the tenacity and the ability to continue to grow. You and I grow ourselves. We're learning, we're growing. We know why we're doing it. We know what we want, and we know why we want it. And when that's clearly defined, you know what you want and know why you want it, that's going to allow you to get through any adversity. Whether you go around it, over it, or through it, you start to develop. So, at the very beginning of our journey here, it's going to be really interesting to see if we go from 150 plus people to see if we go down to 15 that are really serious about their success, if they're going to still be here 10 weeks from now, or if we're going to go to 300, 400, because you're going to tell people about, man, you need to be on the Zoom. And it's not for Larry and I, because we just want to help. And so, I think that when you realize that, that comes from influence, and the way to become influential is to grow. When you add value to yourself, you're adding value to others. And when you can add value to others, you're going to grow. And all the great things that you want in life are going to come to you. So I think it's really important for each of us to make sure that we are constantly, write this down, be a lifelong student. Be a lifelong student of leadership, of success, whether it's Christianity or whatever, whatever your faith is, whether it's a community leader, whatever it might be for you, just grow into that. Make sure that you are learning all that you can learn, because the whole world is on the internet. So let's make sure that we're doing that. Larry, do you have any comments on the law of influence?
Oh, absolutely, Michael. I want to talk about, somebody mentioned, I think it was John Wynn, I'm not sure, but somebody talked about reading about Ray Kroc. And, it's interesting because McDonald's corporations, which has like 38,000 restaurants, does billions of dollars, billions with a B in annual revenue. I remember as a kid, Michael, when every Wednesday night McDonald's had 10 hamburgers for $1. Mom would take us down in the car and we get 10 for $1. And that the big McDonald's sign out front, it said over, like, I remember when it said over 100,000 sold or something. It was like, wow, 100,000 hamburgers.
Yeah.
And they used to post all that. But you know, the McDonald's brothers who founded McDonald's, they weren't great leaders. They didn't know how to influence people. And in 1961, for the tune of $2.7 million, Ray Kroc bought the rights to McDonald's franchise, right? So, you know, and think about that. In 1961, 2.7 million is the equivalent today of 27,850,000.
Wow.
When we get into financial education, we'll talk a little more about helping you understand money. I mean, numbers a little bit better about that. But the thing of it is Ray Kroc, what Ray Kroc brought was influence. He was able to influence people and get them really turned on to doing the right thing in the franchise opportunity. And that's why he turned this restaurant into this mega restaurant that it is today. A couple of Legal Shield examples in influence, Michael. When we first started, in the first few years of our venture, I should say, we used to go into our Super Saturdays, you know, and we'd have people in the Super Saturday, and we'd do them on live events in hotels. It's the greatest time. I'm glad we're getting back to that now. But we'd stand up and we'd say, hey, if you ever heard the name Dave Savola, raise your hand. Of course, Dave was the number one money earner. Everybody knew who Dave was. A lot of people had met Dave because Dave spent his life shaking hands with people and meeting you. But if you didn't know Dave Savola personally, you knew who he was, right? And then we'd say, you know, so everybody would raise their hand. I know who Dave Savola is. And then we'd say, well, how many of you ever heard the name Dave Roller? And you might get 10% of the room that raise their hands, and they'd go, Dave Roller, who's Dave Roller? And I'd say Dave Roller was the guy that recruited Dave Savola. See, Dave Roller had influence. He got Dave into the program. It was Dave's leadership that exploded, that complemented the influence of Dave Roller, that made Dave Roller a very wealthy person. And some people, I was talking to Michael about this earlier today, some people are afraid of the word leadership. They go, oh, I could never be a leader. I'm too timid. I'm too shy. I'm too this. I'm too that. I get it. But you don't have to be a leader. You have to be an influencer. You know, Mark Brown, $1 million ringer on tag team. You know, this guy at Performance Club trips, this guy'd walk around the pool. How you doing? I'm Doug Kelly. I'm Doug Kelly. How you doing? I'm Doug Kelly. And people look at me and go like, who the heck is Doug Kelly? I never heard of him. I'd say, you ever heard of Mark Brown, $1 million ring earner? Yeah. Doug Kelly introduced Mark Brown, right? Doug was an influencer. So don't let the word leadership scare you off. Let the word leadership understand it's all about influence, right? Leadership is influencing. Simple as that. Just as simple as that. You learn how to influence people to take action on something, and you can become a leader because it's just about you having influence. Get people to know, like, and trust you, and you can be an influencer. And when you're an influencer, you can change the world. Michael, influence, the law of influence, I think, is amazing because of how many people you and I have seen in our time at the company that have come in and influenced people and created such magnificent businesses because of their influence, and very important.
Right. And it's also can be the opposite, right? So you look at that, you look at somebody like Mother Teresa, which was referenced in here, the law of influence, but then you look at somebody like Hitler, you know, influential, but in a very negative way. And so, you know, it's like, you know, you want to make sure that you're thinking, you know, the right way, and you're passing on, just like when we talked about when you were a little kid and your parents, they're influencing you, and may or may not have been on purpose or not, whether it was positive or negative or somewhere in the middle of the road. That influence, it has an impact on you. But it's just, you know, what I always taught my girls as they were growing up was to think for yourself and to find out for yourself, and to make sure that their standards were really high. when it came to, you know, whether they were choosing a boyfriend or friends that they were hanging out with, the inner circle, the law of the inner circle, that kind of thing. You know, but that was something that's really, really important. Now the next two chapters, and I'm going to open it up because I want to hear a few comments too, because I don't want it just to be the Michael and Larry show. I want to hear from some of the, you know, some of our folks that have any, you know, comments that they want to add, and want to keep them simple. I want to keep them, you know, as short as possible, and very positive. You know, and if you have any questions that you have, bring them up with us, you know, call me directly.
Michael, if you'll do me one favor, if you all will look at your computer board at the bottom where all your stuff is, where it says reactions, if you click on the word reactions, the up arrow there, it'll give you a chance to raise your hand. So just make sure
John
you
just
raise
did
your
it,
hand. Yeah. John's already done it.
Before I open it up for John, appreciate it, John. Yeah, no, we appreciate that, John. But one of the things that jumped out at me, the next two ones, the law of process, okay, and the law of navigation are next week's you know, Zoom that we're going to do. But in the workbook, it says leadership develops daily, not in a day. And so I just want you guys, I want to pass this on because it was a thought that I had. I would love for you to just make sure that you give yourself permission to take the time to grow. Don't be impatient in that process, because it doesn't happen overnight. Okay. It's a process. And that's why it's called the law process. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. It's the simple daily disciplines that compound over time, you know, and it's also the errors in judgment. So, you know, good things compound, but so does decay. You know, bad things compound as well. So let's make sure we're taking care of that. I want to go over to Mr. John Wynn, and I'll ask you to unmute so you can. John, if you would. There you go.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So just a couple quick comments. If you want to want more to be, you got to become more. Love that, Michael. That's so strong. But Larry, I love the list, the ABC, because man, I go to bed at night thinking about things I didn't do, and I lose sleep. And as soon as we're done, I'm rushing to my desk and writing those down, ABC lists. So thank you. So much more in this, but I just want to make it quick because there's a lot of people. Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all.
Appreciate your leadership, John.
Thanks, John. All right, we have Derek, Dietrich, or Thomas. Let me hit unmute. Ask you to unmute. Yeah, there you go. You keep moving on me. All right, there you are. You can unmute yourself. There you go. Yeah.
How you doing? How everybody doing?
We're doing great.
Good.
We're doing great.
Yes, sir. That's good. That's good, man.
You have a comment?
I really don't. I had kind of got loud off. I'm just get back on with y'all. Hey, I'm just listening, man. I'm all ears, man. I'm all ears.
All right, good stuff. Hey, listen, what we'll do is we'll make sure that we post the recording of this on the Tag Success team. Let's go to Jason King. Jason?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You sound good.
Well, I just want to thank pretty much everybody in leadership, because after getting to this, I was taught a while back that I was a leader. My 12th grade teacher said, "You're a leader." So he put me in positions where I was always the person who led the group and everything. So as I've been going on this leadership journey, especially during leadership, I've seen people in leadership positions on jobs I've been on. And I'm like, you got the position, but you don't have the leadership quality. So I'm kind of seeing how y'all go about leading the great team that y'all have, being the great leaders that y'all are, and trying to put how I could be better as a leader once I start getting my own team.
Right.
And figuring out, you know, what can I take from them? Because everybody has good things. But what is the bad things I can improve on that could make people wanting to come join me on the journey? Because the worst thing to do is you build a big team, but everybody hates dealing with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just want to thank all y'all, because y'all definitely have me thinking constantly, stressing myself out, because I'm like, this is not what I learned in leadership. but they position. So yeah, it's always fighting myself from instead of just overwhelming myself, just take it in and spit out
Sponge.
all. Yeah.
Congratulations on your commitment to growth, Jason. That's a big step, man. Congratulations to you.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
Your
Continue to do it.
acquisition.
Yeah, just be a sponge and continue to learn. And that's all I did. You know, I just surrounded myself with people that were better than me. And I continue to learn from that. All right, let me go over to Barry Fisher. Barry, you should be able to unmute. There you go.
All right, Michael, thank you. And you, Larry, thank you also. And I just want to take something that I took from the book from The Law of the Lid, and looking at the Ray Kroc story and the Mother Teresa story, it said, and this is what I took from it, it says, they would be highly effective because they are increasing their visibility to allow others to work in the process, not doing it all by him or herself.
Yeah.
Right.
And it gives you the opportunity where when you're working with a team, that team will be able to shine through because you're not just dependent on you, you're dependent on helping everyone else get through.
Yep.
And that's what I appreciate.
Yeah, love that comment. Thank you so much for sharing that, Barry. It's the mastermind theory, right? It's like two minds coming together form a third, greater, more powerful mind. And when we have this many people on here, the sky's the absolute limit. There's no doubt. I mean, we can affect real change. But thanks for that comment. Appreciate that. All right, let's go over to Miss Amy. Let me ask you to unmute. You should be able to unmute now, Miss Amy.
Hi, I just wanted to let you know that I really find this very inspiring, and it's really given me more better hope, and it's setting my goals higher. And I just wanted to thank you and the other gentleman and my upper person that I just joined with today, Kelly. You can't ask for anybody better than Kelly.
Yeah.
She's always there. A phone call. You don't miss a phone call with her. She's always there. And like I said, you guys are very inspiring, and I'm hoping to achieve my goals and become higher with Legal Shield.
Yeah, watch that self-talk and just say you're just one thought away. Just watch the self-talk and know that you're going to make it happen, because you can make it happen. It's up to you.
Your dedication to being on this Zoom, Amy, is the first big step. Congratulations to you as well.
Thank you, and I'm hoping to keep going with this.
Good stuff.
Sounds good.
Thank you again.
All right, Mr. Bill Walker.
Michael and Larry, thank you so much. What a powerful training. And you know, I just wanted to highlight again that law of the lid with the fleas. Yeah. That it's generational. That I had not heard that part before, and the amazing responsibility as parents and grandparents and leaders that it's generational. That is so powerful.
Yeah. I mean, Bill, when I watched that video for the first time, right before I told Larry this, I said at the very end, I said, now at the very end, the last sentence, the last thing the guy says was, and their offspring, you know, are limited by that. And I thought, oh my goodness. Yeah, because it's very powerful on that. And that reminded me of Larry's training when Larry used to talk about all, anyways, but yeah, great comment.
And Bill, by the way, thank you for the incredible leadership that you provide this team as well. You're an amazing leader, an amazing friend. We appreciate everything you do for everybody.
Yes. Thank you, sir. All right, let's go. Let's go. Hold on, Dennis. All right, you should be able to unmute Dennis Mull.
Hello. I also want to thank you also for the great training you have here. But back here on the law of the lid, one thing that I've looked back on over the years, I've had a lot of friends and friends of the family that are teachers and stuff, and you was right. A lot of them, they would put the lid on you, and that was the way I believe that they grew up, and so therefore we was not allowed to experience a lot of our growth because we was held down by teachers. I've had teachers that went around the world and was teachers. And they're like, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't do this. Just like we've talked about the 4-minute mile. I never saw until I saw that video when the lid came off. I'm sitting here scratching my head or what I have left of my hair going, you know, that makes sense. I never thought about it until you actually seen a video, how it puts a light bulb on to understand. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your comments, Dennis.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. All right, let's go over to Jose. You should be able to unmute yourself, sir. There you go.
Very good. Thank you very much, Larry and Michael, for having me here. It was a very good learning lesson. With the fleas behaving that way, that reminds me of how we get so used to a comfort zone, and we don't really want to do anything extra because we're fearless. We're afraid of it. We are always trying to think that it's gonna take a lot of energy, maybe money, and obviously that we don't know what's going to happen. So if we take the leap to get out of the comfort zone, we can actually probably go beyond that lid without knowing that there's enough space to get out. So I know for sure that as a culture, we all have beliefs that were passed down from our parents and other peers, and even today's school, which is outdated, you know, that they just teach us to be employees of other business owners instead of becoming our own, entrepreneurship. So that was a good lesson. Thank you. Also, the part that really I've learned or heard about a lot is that, yeah, when you surround yourself between, 5 or more people, you're going to be the average or even less than the average of those people. But what about when we want to help other people, right? So we want to coach them. We want to be able to be their role model. So how do we perceive being around them? Is that going to affect us and lower our level of, understanding and smartness and everything that we want to be above when it comes to being the average or better than the best ones that we have as role models? So now how do we manage that in terms of teaching other people?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would just tell you the number one thing that you do is you work on yourself. You build yourself up to be 10 feet tall and bulletproof because you're working on yourself every single day because most people aren't. And so you can excel way beyond that. And then you also limit the amount of time you spend with that person. You don't allow them into your inner circle, but you give them group time. You can't give them personal time, but you give them group time, and you lead them, you plug them into the system, you let them run on the system, you guide them. You can, like my dad always told me, Michael, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you can lead it to water, and you want to do the very, very best you can do. You do all that you can do, and be proud of that. So I think that's a great question. But don't spend too much time with that person, and always work on yourself, and always surround yourself with people. Sorry, Larry.
Yeah, that's okay, Michael. And remember, Jose, leaders are readers, right? I mean, listen, Michael and his dad taught me early on, because I didn't used to read at all, because I was always told myself I was a slow reader, right? But when I got involved in personal development, and they said readers are leaders, and I'm going like, I can't read. I'm too slow. I read too slow. And they said, no, I said, readers are leaders. They said, if you read 10 pages of a good book every day, that's 30 pages a month. I mean, 300 pages a month. That's a book a month. That's about 12 books a year. In 5 years, you won't even resemble the person you were 5 years earlier. It's the simple daily disciplines compounded over time, Jose. Keep working on yourself, like Michael said. Thanks for your honesty and your transparency. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a good one.
You're welcome. Thank you. And let me just make 2 comments on this one. You guys might want to write these 2 down because they're really good, because Jim Rohn said them. But the book you don't read can't help you. And if you can read and you don't, you're a voluntary illiterate.
Yeah, I love that one.
Don't be that. Just make sure whatever information's out there, get all the information you can. Let's go over to Jenny Mack here. Okay. You should be able to.
Jenny Mack.
All right. I just wanted to say thank you. When I heard about this, I was in the middle of an airport trying to fly out to a location. Just super, super stoked. Michael Dorsey, you have been my mentor from day one, 14 years ago. And I just continued to learn and grow from you. You and Larry Smith are always a dynamic duo. And you complement each other so well. I hold you both in the highest esteem. I cannot believe this training is free. I was so excited about it. Not only did I share it with my team, but I also shared it with my Legal Shield family, with friends across the country. I hope they're on this because I think it is phenomenal. And I'm going to do everything in my willpower to be here every week. So thank you so much again for sharing and pouring into all of us.
Thank you for your kind words. You touched my heart. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're fantastic, Jenny Mack, and thanks for your great leadership in the team as well.
Yes. Okay, let's go to Cardell real quick. We'll just take a few more. We'll stop at let's see, Karen. We'll stop at Karen Griffin. So we have a few more. All right, Cardell.
Hi. First, I want to say thank you, Michael and Larry, for doing this training. I love to read and I love to lead. I've never heard of this book, but I have read a lot of John C. Maxwell books, and I've developed myself. One takeaway definitely that I got tonight was from The Law of the Lid. And it says that, you know, your success is limited by your leadership skills. And when I was reading that in the book, I was like, I don't understand, because he gave numbers with it. So he's like, if you're at a 6, then your leadership is at 8, you'll never get higher. But when I saw the video, you know, it really helped me understand. But I said, well, if I've always been a leader in my circle, that means that I'm able to succeed because I have high leadership skills. So now I have a whole different mindset. Right. And then also, yes, also for the, I can't remember which one of you shared about making the $1 million with the show and tell and sharing just 2 videos. Someone was telling you, another leader. Like that just really just touched my soul. I'm just starting out, and I've been with Legal Shield for over 15 years with my business and personal, but I never thought to come on board. And Miss Brown and Mr. Brown, they've been, you know, with me like about 6 years trying to get me involved. And I finally got involved 2.5 weeks ago, and I've seen success already. So
well, listen, you hang on to Ulysses and Lynette, and you can't help to have success. They're great leaders.
Yes, they are. So thank you both. This is awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your comments. Let's go out to iPhone. It doesn't say. You can unmute yourself, iPhone, if you have a comment.
That's Ron.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, Ron. How you doing, sir? This is excellent. Man, you know, the law of the lid is a recharge, a reboot, and a reinvigorate. Because Jim Rohn said, if you're not reading, you're not being a leader.
That's right.
So that's right. I'm excited for the team and how you're putting this together, but it's all collaborate with 5 C's, and that's collaborating in the community with communication consistently will give you new currency. And that currency is relationship, is friendship, is camaraderie and rapport. Thank you guys for your leadership. It's impeccable. And we are going to the top. The bottom is just too crowded.
All right, Ron. Thank you, man. Appreciate
you, Ron.
Positivity. You're always so positive. Thank you so much. All right, let's go out to Mehdi. Mehdi, welcome. You can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me okay, sir?
Yeah, now I can. Yes.
Awesome. You know, to be honest with you, I'm with the Legal Shield for almost 20 years. And anytime I think about uncomfortable, I'm thinking about great Irrefutable. Yeah. He always telling us about uncomfortable. His spirit is everywhere.
Yep.
He's coaching everyone. Thank you for allowing me to share. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks, Maddie. Appreciate you, man. Okay, let's go to iPhone Stephanie. You should be able to unmute yourself. There you go.
Oh, wait. Hello, everybody. This is awesome. My life has changed. I've been in Legal Shield since 2014. I built a business. I had people, they all quit. And then I got into the small business. I was making a little money. And since November, I had to retire early and take care of my dad, who's 87 years old, and move to a total different market. And Mr. Smith, what you said about reprioritizing your schedule is something that I really need, because I don't have that time sometimes. Yeah. You know, sometimes my dad's falling on the floor. I have to get him up. I make sure he's not breaking something. And I can't give up this business. I love Legal Shield. I love helping people. I love the services that we have. But I came to the conclusion that I needed to work on myself so that I can draw people from anywhere that I am. Okay. I am an entrepreneur. I have another business. I'm an artist. I paint. I also teach young kids art classes for homeschoolers. I do that sometimes. But in the meantime, that gives me opportunity to show them what we do with Legal Shield. And so I need this 10 weeks to make me a better person. I've read this book before, a few years before, but you know, when you read a good book later on, you're at a different level. Right. And that's where I am. And I am appreciating not only the two of you, but also the comments from other people to help me grow to be that girl. And I'm going to be that girl, and I'm definitely going to see you guys next week. So I thank you very much for everything that you said today.
Thank you, Stephanie. We appreciate you. Just keep on going, keeping on. We appreciate you.
I was going to say, you've already taken step one, Stephanie. You're here tonight. So take step two and be here next Wednesday and keep growing, man. It's real proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's go to Mr. Jeff Ingram. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you for allowing me to share. Thank you for this incredible training and the opportunity to be here. And I wanted to thank Mr. Smith for telling me to make a list so I can get some sleep tonight.
You'll thank me in the morning, Jeff.
Never know, man. I love it. I love it. All right, let's go to Bill Harrell. Bill, you should unmute yourself.
Hey, Michael, Larry, thank you so much. This training is going to be awesome. And so far, what I've read actually in the introduction of the book, I'm one of those guys like, sorry, Larry, I didn't read much growing up until I became part of this company, and I started reading more because of learning that personal development is important. But in the introduction, I learned right away, and this is going to be a great training. I appreciate you guys putting this all together. Appreciate the team. One of the things I learned, which we all know, we all have weaknesses, we all have strengths. And what I want to read this part here. It says, once you've discovered in which laws you are average or below in, begin looking for team members whose skills are stronger than your weakness. And wow, that's huge. And so I'm looking forward to this training.
That's a mastermind concept, right, Michael?
Yeah, it is. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate that. All right, let's go to Jim Gavin up in Minnesota.
All right. Well, I'm so grateful for this this gathering tonight. I feel like we're being surrounded by very successful people. That's going to make me better, and my lid is going to be blown off the top. But I love the thing you said, Michael, about the vision board. I hope you can talk more about that in the future. And I know that's going to help me have a bigger vision and get to higher levels. But the one vision board that really helped me was the national convention. When I went to the national convention, I heard the stories from everybody. It was like seeing a great vision in front of me of what I could become. And I think that's why I was able to hit the $100,000 ring level and begin to go on for greater and greater things, because I had a vision from that national convention that I would have never gotten if I wouldn't have gone. And I just thank you for the vision board.
Awesome. Very good. Thanks, Bill. Jim, we appreciate you, man. And we look forward to seeing you. We look forward to seeing everybody in Oklahoma City real soon.
Yeah, all right. It's gonna be great, Jim. Tell Goodyear is the same thing. We're looking forward to seeing both of you there, and you guys travel safe. We'll see you there. Have a great time this year.
All right, let's go to Karen. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. I want to tell you that flea jar set me back on my heels. When you said generational, I didn't realize I'm one of those people that broke a really bad family situation with myself. But so that really struck home. And then, you know what? There's some of us on here that are in the autumn years of our life, like a Larry Smith and myself. And you're never too old to really learn to enjoy life and have bigger dreams and become more. Thank you, guys. It means the world to me. And
Thanks.
Marco says hi. And Marco says hi.
All right.
Time for dinner, mommy.
Thanks, Karen. Appreciate your kind words.
Yeah.
All right. And last but not least, Mr. Mark Evans, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Wow. Humbled is the appropriate word. I've been around the business a long time. I'm blessed to have Miss Verna Heath as my sponsor. And I've heard Larry speak a lot of times, and this something that kind of got me fired up again. I've been in the benefits world. I've owned several agencies, but this book is incredible. Ray Kroc, I love what he said. There are two kinds of people in the world. They're givers and takers, and you guys are givers. And Ray Kroc in the book said, you know, he kind of like Mr. Stonecipher reminds me of that, where he hocked his house to pay his bills, and so did Ray Kroc. He borrowed from his life insurance. He did all those things. Leaders truly give it all out. They have the vision of where they're going, and that's obvious by you two guys. And because I've heard your stories forever, especially from Miss Heath. She's been so plugged in, and she's so patient with me. I don't want to say how long, like 20 years worth of patience, but I've always admired you guys at afar. And I'll say this in closing, that when Darnell came and spoke this weekend, he said, if you're going to be full, he said, if you're going to be part-time, full-time, carve those hours and make them specific. To your point, Larry, about the list. And I've been this year, I've got these legal pads that are these small pads, secretary pads, where I'm most successful when I have a list and I can strike it out, because one of the leading business coaches in the world said, there's nothing more powerful than pen to paper. So write it down, and so that you see it and believe it. Thank you so much for your time.
Mark, great.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. Go ahead, Michael. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say real quick, thanks, Mark, for your comments, and you're exactly right. You know, and I see younger generations, and if you're a younger generation that's on here right now, don't count it on your phone. That doesn't count. You have to take the pen to paper, like Mark just said. There's something magical happens there, Larry, when you actually write the list out. You know, just so you can see it there, and then you can cross it out. It's just something that happens in our brain, and I think that's very powerful.
And just so you know, Mark, because Michael's exactly right. It's pen to paper, but mine is pen to remarkable. It's not, you know, when I say I do it digitally, it's because my remarkable transfers to my phone. So like when if I'm out on the farm building something, whatever I've got written down, because I'll take notes in my remarkable, and it transfers to my phone app where I can look at the list on my phone as well as my pen to paper. But I'm like Michael, pen to paper is critical. And by the way, fella, you having Verna Heath for a coach, you're in a great position, man, and take advantage of it. She's an amazing leader in our company, an amazing person individually, and you're fortunate to be working with her. And I know you know that, Mark. Thanks for your leadership, sir.
Now, Larry, what is remarkable? Explain that to everybody. It's a technology. I know what it is. I just want to.
It's actually, I was working on it earlier. It's actually in the kitchen in there, but it's like a pad. It's a mechanical tablet,
right,
that you write down. It's got a pen to it and stuff, and you actually write it down. And Haskaku and some people saw me using it at the Leadership Summit back in October, because instead of like my journals, you know, I'm changing pages. Here I just scroll up, and it's like one continual book, or I can pass it to the right and add another chapter, another notebook, or another folder. It's just like a journal, but it's in one mechanical tablet. It's called Remarkable. Remarkable.
Remarkable, and it's compatible with both Android and
I don't know about Android because I'm not Android, I'm iOS, but they're about $500. They're not cheap, but they're the greatest. It's the greatest tool I've ever had.
I spent thousands of dollars at Barnes and Noble on journals alone.
Exactly.
So I wish all those notes were computerized.
That's the way I saw it. And the thing of it is because it's compatible to plug in an iPhone. Like I can go to a convention like our leadership summit back in October. I could go into my phone and pull up that folder that had into my PPLSI folder. I could pull up the leadership summit and have all my notes from the leadership summit right on my phone.
Nice.
Instead of trying to find the journal where it was. So I find that much more beneficial for me.
All right.
It's a simple.
Remarkable. Oh, Kelly, thank you. Kelly, my sister just popped in the chat, remarkable.com. So it's in the chat. If you guys want to see what it is, you can click on that link. Let's go to our last comment, Miss Rosalind. You should be able to unmute yourself. You're good.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I just want to say that my prayer for our country after listening to this, even before, is that we take heed to understand how important it is to teach our children how to read.
Yeah.
At the appropriate time so that they can mature into their adolescence, really reading and understanding that they are leaders because we are all created in the image of the leader of all leaders.
Right.
And some of us are struggling to understand that in our adulthood and could be far beyond where we are now, if indeed the time was taken to do that. And as far as the lid is concerned, specifically for Black and brown children, and the, how do you say, the generational piece of it is to be unbrainwashed from the culture of not being good enough.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And I think that as we go along, skyrocketing to make the money, that we leave something on the ground, if you will, for those to pick up, to understand that they can do it in their appropriate age time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just remember, we're only adults in our own eyes. Rosalind, we're not adults in God's eyes. We're children, and we'll always be children of God.
I do understand that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Michael, thanks for allowing me to share the stage with you as always, man. You're an impeccable leader. You're a great friend. I'm really excited about where we're going to take this thing and how many lives we'll touch with this leadership show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Larry. We'll go ahead and wrap it up, guys. And just thank you for joining us and spending the last, hour and 8 minutes with us. And we'll be back next week on Wednesday night, same Zoom room. We'll get the promotional out with both Larry and I on there. And we'll be talking about the law process and the law of navigation and adding our thoughts and then opening it up for everybody. So we really appreciate everyone joining us. Spread the word. Let your teams know if you liked it. Join us again. It's going to be interesting to see how many people we have next week, Larry. All right,
yep,
guys.
And listen, don't be afraid to invite people who aren't in Legal Shield.
There you go. Yeah.
Because you listen, I can tell you, we've had people join us in things we've done like this, and they go, if this is what you're doing, I'm in. I don't care what business it is. I'm in just for this if this is all I get. So, don't be afraid to invite people who aren't Legal Shield to come join us in a leadership training. Okay.
Yep. Sounds good. Thank you guys so much.
Take care, guys. Good night, everybody.